The Braves still have some work left to do this offseason, but are they already the best lineup in the NL East? And what are some keys to making sure they have a top offense in all of baseball? We'll be talking lineups on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
Hey, this is Stacey Gotsoulias,
DC Lundberg,
Ryan Finkelstein,
Taylor Blake Ward,
host of Locked On Yankees,
Locked On Mariners,
Locked On Mets,
Locked On Angels,
and you're listening to Locked On Braves.
Locked On Braves,
Locked On Braves,
part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Braves, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your favorite teams every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on Twitter at shortstopball. Check out my bio there to see everywhere I am covering the game of baseball, including the Atlanta Braves in written form over at tomahawktake.com. Also cover AA South or Prospects 1500, the Birmingham Barons for Southside Sox, and college baseball for College Baseball Nation. Also, make sure you follow the podcast on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves so that you can be part of the conversation. And subscribe to us wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, or even if you don't watch on YouTube, please make sure you go over there, hit that subscribe button. Really does help out the show a ton. And thanks for making Locked On Braves your first listen each and every day. We are free and available on all platforms. And before we get into today's episode, I want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So we've been doing our series ranking each position group in the NL East. Today we're going to be looking at the lineups. We've already looked at starting pitching. We looked at managers. So if you missed those episodes, go back and check those out. We'll continue those this week, and then we'll have a crossover episodes the following week with the other NL East hosts and talk about our rankings. But today we're going to be ranking the lineups in the NL East. Who has the best lineup in the NL East right now? I'm going to be doing this the same way I've done the other rankings. I'm going to be doing this based off FanGraphs projected lineups, and going to be doing it on players, obviously right now. There's still more offseason left to be done, so things can change, and I'll talk about that, what moves, what positions each team probably needs to be going after once offseason does pick back up. But we're going to be going basically off the projections of FanGraphs right now as far as depth charts are concerned. So how would I rank things in the NL East as far as lineups right now? I'm going to have to go with the New York Mets at number 1. And looking at FanGraphs projections for the Mets, they have Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso, Cano, Mark Canha, Eduardo Escobar, McNeil, and McCann. That is a pretty deep lineup. You got Eduardo Escobar and Jeff McNeil hitting 7 and 8 in that lineup. James McCann, who's a pretty good hitting catcher himself. I mean, that's a really deep lineup. I wouldn't say there's a ton of stars in that lineup. I think the Braves have, more overall stars in their lineup, but that is pretty deep. There's not a ton of question marks in that lineup right now. And I honestly don't think they make any more moves for the starting lineup, maybe some more depth moves, but I mean, I think their lineup is pretty set right now as it stands. So I have the Mets currently with the best lineup in the NL East. Now, I do have the Atlanta Braves at second with, I'm assuming, Acuna. The one thing I did assume was Acuna being healthy, especially with this delay. Would not be surprised at all if he's ready to go, from the beginning, if not shortly after. So I got Acuna, Swanson, Riley, Ozuna, Duvall, Albies, Travis d'Arnaud, Orlando Arcia at first base right now, and Christian Pache in center field. So obviously some question marks at the back of that lineup as things stand right now. I think the Braves probably have some of the most work to do lineup-wise. And look, you put Freddie Freeman in this lineup, and I think they immediately become, the best lineup on paper in the NL East. I think he's that impactful, but he's not there right now. And that's a huge drop off from him to what FanGraphs has in there right now is Orlando Arcia at first base. So Again, that's the only reason I give the Mets the nod over the Braves is just because that huge hole at first base. I think once that gets fixed, I think the Braves do have the best lineup on paper. You can go Acuna, Freeman, Riley, Ozuna, Albies, Duvall, Swanson, Travis, and then whatever they want to do in center field. Maybe they go and get, another left-handed bat. I do think they need another left-handed bat, whether that's Michael Conforto, Eddie Rosario, somebody like that. I still think it would be good for them to go out and get another left-handed bat in this lineup outside of Freddie Freeman. So I have the Braves right now at number 2, knowing that there's still some work left to be done that we could easily get them to number 1 in the division. I got the Phillies at number 3 with Segura, Hoskins, Harper, Real Muto. It's a really strong top 4, but then I think there's a big drop-off after that with Gregorius right now, although I think they make upgrade at shortstop, Alec Boehm, Hazley, Verling, and Moniak. That's a really tough second half of the lineup, but it is very top heavy, and there are some really strong players at the top. I think they have some work to do in the offseason as well, try to fill out the rest of those spots in the back end of the lineup. I have the Marlins at number 4, Miguel Rojas, Jazz Chisholm Jr., Avisel Garcia, Jesus Aguilar, Jesus Sanchez, Brian Anderson, Joey Wendell, Brian De La Cruz, and Jacob Stallings, who they acquired before the lockout. Again, nothing spectacular across the board there, but I do think it's a more deeper lineup than what we'll see from the Nationals and maybe even the Phillies, but certainly not the star power there in the middle of that lineup. They have the pitching, as we've talked about. We talked about on the starting pitching rankings episode last week. It's going to be, can they score runs? Can they develop some big hitters in that lineup? So again, I think they have some solid pieces up and down, but certainly nobody that's going to necessarily stand out. But I got the Marlins at number 4, and then I got the Nationals coming in 5th. And it's really hard to say that when they have maybe the best hitter in all of baseball and Juan Soto in that lineup. But you look at what he has around him: Lane Thomas, Cesar Hernandez, Josh Bell, Yadiel Hernandez, Kybert Ruiz, Alcides Escobar, Carter Kieboom, Victor Robles. So, not a great cast surrounding Juan Soto. Bell can be very good. Cesar Hernandez isn't terrible. Still waiting on Carter Kieboom to break out. Victor Robles, a great defender. He's fine in that 8-9 slot in the lineup. Kybert Ruiz, a young player, who's coming on at the catcher position. Alcides Escobar, a bit up there in age, veteran shortstop at this point. So not a ton around Juan Soto to really give this lineup, that punch that it needs. So that's why I have them ranked 5th. I think you go back and forth on Marlins and Nationals for 4th or 5th there. I think the Phillies are very squarely in that number 3 spot with a very good top of the lineup with Segura, Hoskins, Harper, Real Muto. Again, very strong top 4. And then I think if the Braves just get Freeman, I think they jump the Mets. Again, we're talking on paper as far as lineups go, but I do love the depth of that Mets lineup, the moves they made with Marte and Canna and Escobar. I think that really just lengthens that lineup and provides some great depth for them there. So that's why I have them ranked 1st overall right now. Next, I want to talk about what this Braves lineup needs to do, some keys for this Braves lineup in order for them for not just to be the best lineup in the NL East, but I think they have the ability to be the best lineup in all of baseball. Football might be over for this season, but basketball is in full swing for both pro and college hoops. From the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the number 1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so getting back into the lineups, I think the Braves have the ability. I think they have most of the pieces in place to be one of the best offenses in all of baseball. Really, even without Freddie Freeman, like I said, I would have them ranked second in the NL East. I still think they would be a top 8 offense in all of baseball with what they have. But I think obviously with Freddie Freeman in tow, or perhaps even just a solid upgrade at first base, whether it's Matt Olson, which really would be a significant move at first base, or even Anthony Rizzo, I think would still be good enough for this offense to be one of the best in all of baseball, a top 5 offense in baseball. But here are 7 keys that I have for that to happen. Number 1, re-signing Freddie Freeman. Again, I've talked about it several times already on this episode. We talked about it all offseason. The number 1 key, I think, for them being the best offense in all of baseball is re-signing Freddie Freeman. He is the one player in this lineup who is going to give you a good at bat each time up there. He's also the one primary left-handed batter in the lineup if you have him right now and they don't make any other moves, which I think they will. I think they should, to get another left-handed bat. But he gives you that, one left-handed hitter in the lineup that can come in and crush right-handed pitching. Really, Freddie can do both, but obviously better against right-handed hitters. So re-signing Freddie Freeman, that is key number 1. Key number 2 is also pretty obvious. These first 2 are really obvious, but key number 2 is Ronald Acuna Jr. staying healthy. And I just want this for my sake, for the fans of baseball. I want to see Ronald Acuna Jr. have a healthy 2022 season. And if he does that atop this Braves lineup, this offense is going to flow. They're going to score runs, and Ronald Acuna Jr. is going to win an MVP. I fully believe that. If he can just get a full healthy season under his belt, he will win MVP. I think he would have won it in 2021 had he stayed healthy, especially if the resurgence of the Braves would have continued just like it did. I think he would have won the MVP in 2021. So again, getting Freeman back, getting Acuna healthy all year long, those are the 2 biggest keys for the Braves offense to be one of the best in baseball. My third key is leaving Ozzie Albies down in the order. And again, I've touched on this some in the offseason. We're in a lockout. I've touched on multiple things multiple times, but I think Ozzie Albies needs to bat down in the order, whether that's 5th or 6th. I think you need to put him down there, just leave him there and let him drive in runs. That's what he does. That's what he's good at. I don't want to see him at the top of the lineup anymore. He's not that type of hitter. He's a free swinger. He's going to go up there. He's trying to park one. And that's what he is. That's his game. And as much as it frustrates me, look, he's an all-star level player. He's one of the best second basemen offensively and defensively in all of baseball. But I think his spot in the lineup is further down. I think his game is more tailored to bat down in the lineup where he can drive in runs. I think you saw that in Game 6 of the World Series. Again, a 1-game sample size, but I think that really got the offense going in that game. So that's where, I think Ozzie needs to stay. I don't think you really need to play with him anymore, trying to make him something that he's not. I know his prototypical size makes you think that he should be a number 2 hitter. He's not. That's just not him. That's not his game. We know that now. He's not going to change, so we shouldn't try to change him. Let's put Ozzie down in the order where he can excel and just continue to drive in 90-plus runs a year. So that is another key for me. Just leave Ozzie down in the lineup. Dansby Swanson, next key is Dansby Swanson having a mini breakout. Again, I've talked on this a little bit already this year. I don't need to see much from Dansby, but I do need to see him have kind of a mini breakout season. He's shown the power, obviously 27 home runs, but would like to see him boost up that average, boost up that on-base percentage, get to a 270 average, 325, even 330 on-base percentage. That would be huge, especially, again, down in the order. If he gets to those ranges, then perhaps you move him up to that number 2 slot, and he can kind of solve that and lengthen the lineup a little bit, because then you can go Acuna, Swanson, Freeman, Riley, Ozuna, and and Albies, then it just really lengthens the lineup. So if Swanson can do that, that obviously would be huge for this lineup. It continue that power surge that he has, being a 20, 25 home run a year type of bat. Next key for me is Austin Riley not regressing too far from 2021. And yes, I do think Austin Riley will regress some. 2021 was an amazing season, maybe the best season that we ever see from Austin Riley, but he's got to back that up and show that that wasn't, just a fluke season. He can't just completely crash after that season. And I'm not saying that he will. I'm not predicting that to happen, but we still need to see him be an all-star caliber player. I don't know that he'll hit 300 again, but can he hit 280? Can he hit 30 home runs? That's the type of player I see Austin Riley being going forward. And so I just want to see him do that in 2022 and, not just completely fall off the map from 2021, which again, I don't think he will, but just see him become the type of player that I think he can be. 270, 280, 30 home runs, 90 to 100 RBI, 330, 340 on base, 800 OPS type guy. That's what I think Austin Riley can be, and hopefully he will be going forward. So again, breakout in 2021. How does he follow up that performance? Another key for me. And then next is Marcell Ozuna, giving us something. I don't know what to expect from Marcell Ozuna. Basically been out of baseball, for over a year now. I know he played some, obviously, at the beginning of last year before the injury and then everything else that happened. Then he played in the Dominican Winter League where he, continued to crush baseballs. But what are we going to get from Marcell Ozuna? Can he be a 780 OPS, 25 home run guy? If he gets that, that's just icing on the cake at this point for the Braves with everything else they already have in their lineup and what you feel comfortable with. But I think Ozuna is a big question mark. What can you get from him? And if he is that type of player, 780 OPS, 25 home run player, even if he hits 250, 260, you'll take that in the middle of your lineup, your fourth or fifth spot in the lineup. So I think that's another huge key. And then my final key here is Travis d'Arnaud staying healthy. He's good when he's healthy, when he plays, but he's not healthy and he's not playing a lot. And that's been the case throughout the most of his career. So having him healthy, having him on the field is huge. Manny Pena coming in as the backup is great, but Manny Pena is a 200 hitter at this point. He's a guy that's going to run into one every now and then. Travis is a more well-rounded offensive player, and it's just really big at the back of the lineup when he's healthy and when he's in there. So re-signing Freddie, having Acuna healthy for a full season, Ozzy batting down in the order, Swanson with a mini breakout, Riley not regressing too far from 2021, Ozuna giving you something, and Travis d'Arnaud staying healthy. Now, that's a lot to ask. That's 7 things to ask for, but I do think, really they don't even have to hit on all of those, but certainly if they hit on all of those, I can't see this not being a top 3 offense, if not the best offense in all of baseball. So, that's really exciting as a Braves fan to see what this offense can do when clicking on all cylinders, when everybody's in the lineup and healthy. I think this could be a really dynamic offense. All right, next we'll finish with the CBA negotiations, where they stand now and what is next. When can we get baseball or more games ready to get canceled this week? This is the time of year. We're in March at this month. I've probably already given up on my resolutions more times than not by now, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution, and that's thanks to Built Bar. And it almost doesn't feel like a resolution at all because I actually enjoy eating them. And have you tried their puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. In fact, all Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, which is why they are so delicious. Low calories, high protein. Replace your candy bar with these. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories, while most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. And they have so many great, delicious flavors like mint brownie, coconut almond, and right now my new favorite, the white chocolate cookies and cream. Go to built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. This episode is also brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts your car will ever need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home or in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. And why choose to spend 30, 50, sometimes even 100% more for the exact same parts from a chain store or new car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you need from brake parts, tail lamps, and motor oil, and even a new carpet. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck, and please write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. All right, so the players made a proposal over the weekend, and it honestly, in my opinion, was a terrible proposal. It got nowhere. It's been like every other proposal in these negotiations from both sides. It moved to nothing. They took $5 million off their offer in the pre-art pool, going from 85 to 80 million, with the owner still at 30 million. So still a huge gap there. They didn't move at all on the CBT, which is the biggest pain point right now. Basically, another week has gone by and very little movement has been made, and that is frustrating. As I talked about the other day, these two sides are not that far away, but how they keep inching and inching closer to each other are just dragging out these negotiations. Neither side willing to give in and make that big move to really get a deal done, and that's frustrating. That's sad. I get it from the players' perspective. They feel like they're not getting their piece of the pie, and maybe they're not. I'm not going to go into detail on financials, and I don't really care. I just want baseball. I love the game of baseball. I want to see the game of baseball. Just get it figured out. But how these two sides are treating it is just becoming increasingly frustrating at this point. The owners basically said the deal that the players made was a step backward. It really didn't move the negotiations at all, which I agree with. And they're saying negotiations are now at a deadlock, which is, again, just increasingly sad and frustrating. I heard Joel Sherman say on MLB Network that what's scary is that both sides feel like they've given as much as they can, like they've gone as far as they can go, and they're still, far off in terms of money on at least the pre-arb pool and the CBT. And that's scary to think that each side is that they're, they've drawn their line in the sand. This is not where we're going to go. And we're still 50 million off in the pre-arb bonus pool. We're still 18 million off in the CBT threshold. That's scary to me. And I think more games are going to get canceled soon. I think we could see this week the announcement of more regular season games being canceled. Spring training games are already canceled through March 18th. If a deal is done by Thursday, that's exactly 4 weeks to opening day. And the commissioners already said we need at least 4 weeks of spring training, which again, I agree with. I think you need at least 4 weeks. So that means, if a deal isn't done this weekend, they're going to have to start canceling more regular season games. So, and I don't see a deal getting done anytime soon with the way these two sides are negotiating. So, again, I hate to be a downer and leave this podcast on a downer, but the two sides are stuck at a deadlock, and they're just not willing to move, and neither side is willing to give in. So I think we're going to see more games canceled later this week. It's starting to look more and more likely like May will be the first time that we will most likely see games this year. It's really a bummer. Like I said, I'm a fan of the game. I just want to watch the game of baseball. I want to watch it played at the highest level. I don't care about the business aspect of this. That is for the players and the owners to decide. I'm a fan of the game. I want to watch the game of baseball. So I just want to see these two sides get it figured out quickly. Luckily, we do have college baseball, and we're going to have minor league baseball coming in no matter what. So we will still have some games going on. And so we'll be talking about that, probably ramp up the minor league coverage here in the next couple of weeks as they get going in spring training, and they have an opening day of April 12th, I believe. So we will have some games, but it's unfortunate that the MLB and the owners and the players just can't really make any ground, and they continue to drag out these negotiations right now. But hopefully we'll have some better news as the week goes along, and we'll cover it all here on Locked On Braves. But that will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at LockedOn_Braves. You can follow me at ShortstopBall. Also, make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well. And we will talk to you next time.